conducting our first training video on YouTube, and hopefully this will be a good format to be able to get information, timely information out to you. Today we're talking about the National Day of Listening as Legacy Project, Life Story Vignettes, and these are stories from residents that highlight a particular fond or important memory for them. And what Marge and I are going to do today is walk through a real play that demonstrates how to use the various different technologies and walks through a real play of the question and answers. And so Marge, thanks for joining us today. And technology that we're going to use for this project is one that it's called the Snowball microphone. It's an omnidirectional microphone, and it's a high quality microphone. And we have one in this office that we can make available, and if you're interested in purchasing one, they're relatively inexpensive. I think they're $50. And so it works with any laptop, and there's no there's actually free software that's available for use. But if each of the communities if you have some sort of technology, the key component we've found to make this effective and have good quality is to be able to utilize a good quality mic. So it plugs into any laptop and it records. You don't have to worry about, you should do some trial runs, and Marge and I previously had gone through this just to kind of practice and work out some of the clunkiness of it. And
the other thing to realize when you're doing these initially, even when you're doing your trial runs, is the setting needs to be without interruptions. So you need to be in some part of the community where you know you're going to have the attention of the person you're interviewing, and no interruptions to the best ability you can control. So, you know, no phone that's going to be ringing, nobody knocking on the door. All of that is pretty disruptive to the person that's trying to share their story. And that you may have to seek a place beside your own office if that's really a busy place for you. But I'm sure with your cooperation of your management team, you can come up with a setting that works well. In the past, when I've interviewed residents, done audio interviews of residents, I've found that doing it in their apartment home does not work very well, because that's another setting where you really cannot control the interruptions.
you might have the cat or the dog jumping on the
cat,
couch.
the dog, the phone ringing, somebody knocking on the door, or they might get distracted and start telling you about the items in the home. And it's just probably better to have a setting where there's the minimum amount of distraction.
So the nice thing is that we're doing this in an audio format, and people don't have to worry about how they look or how they're dressed or the actual background. And so the key important thing is to just be able to talk normally and have a conversation, and that conversation occurs from some questions that we have that are sample questions that can help tease out those areas of importance or experiences that are life-changing, that sort of thing, that will help.
And for this setting, what I did was I gave Brian the same list of questions that we gave you when you were at the training that are in your notebook, and they're also available online at the StoryCorps website. And what I did was I asked him to pick out the questions that he thought really focused on the area he wanted to talk about. So the highlight for him turned out to be his work, and how he does his work and why he does his work, and some of the influencing factors that have shaped his career. You'll find in that list of questions there are several different things people can talk about. They can talk about their career, they can talk about their childhood, they can talk about their accomplishments, they can talk about their family. So what they need to do is pick out that thing that resonates most with them as their moments of pride, right, and their story that they'd like to share with others through an audio format.
We're really excited about this project because the stories, as I'm sure you're well aware, that the stories that residents bring to you and that you hear every day are just fascinating, and the residents that reside in our communities are fascinating people and have had fascinating experiences, and it always amazes me just the vast degree of variety and experiences that they've had. So Let's, what we're going to do is walk through Marge asking me, again, a real play, Marge asking me the questions, and we're going to walk through a sample of that. So
the suggested format is to introduce yourself at the beginning of the tape, give a little bit of information about where you are and what day it is, and to also have the person you're interviewing do the same. And that's the format that I'm going to use before I ask Brian the first question. So my name is Marge Coleman. I'm the Vice President of Wellness for Touchmark, and I'm based at the central office in Beaverton. And Brian?
Brian Pryor, Vice President of Operations, and I've been with Touchmark for 25 years, and I work from the central office as well in Beaverton, Oregon.
So when I asked Brian to review the list of questions, he came up with the desire to talk about his career and what's brought him to the point he is in his life right now in terms of the work he does, why he has such a passion for it, why it's important to him, and some of the influences that have taken him in the direction that he goes. So, Brian, I'm gonna ask you the first question if I can.
Okay, Marge?
What lessons has your work life taught you?
Well, so as I reflected on this question, one of the things I did was write some notes so that as I started to come to the recording, I'd have some notes to draw on.
So one of the questions that you highlighted, Brian, that you wanted to share with people when I asked you was the one about the fact that it's been said that after they pass away, the most important people in our lives live within us. Is there anyone from your past that lives within you?
Yeah. The person that comes to mind is my father, Marshall Eugene Pryor. I feel very fortunate to have his life influence in not only my life, but as an adult and growing up, but his influence in my 5 kids. He's a man of character, a man of integrity, hard work, always willing to help others. I remember him saying to me after spending 25 years at Tektronix, and after spending 20 years in the Navy, well, I guess he spent 20 years in the Navy first and then 25 years at Tektronix, but his comment was, you don't retire from, you retire to, and his point about that was that to live life with a sense of purpose, and that it wasn't about what you'd done, but what you were going to do and the difference that you were going to make in people's lives. And after he retired the second time or the 25 years at Tektronix, he went on to start a nonprofit that was recycling computers and ended up shipping computers to various different countries, various different nonprofit organizations, have-nots, if you will, in terms of the technology that were recycled computers. And one day he called me up and said, Brian, I got to borrow your truck. This bank's going to give me a truckload of computers that they're replacing all their computers. And
how would you like to be remembered, Brian?
How would I like to be remembered? Well, I'd like to be remembered as making a positive difference in people's lives. Whether that's with my wife, my kids, individuals I work with, or residents and family. A couple of months back today, so.
Brian, thank you so much for sharing those highlights with us. We're concluding the interview now. I'm going to turn off the microphone.
Yeah.
And
okay. So just as a point of we've conducted the interview, did a real play on that, probably more than you wanted to know. But what we've got is the software has the ability to stop and be able to then conclude the message. And I think what we want to say is also that it's important that the conversation be focused and be within what type of time frame, like 3 to 5 minutes, or?
Well, they say that the average of these interviews when they've done them in the StoryCorps project has been 40 minutes.
40 minutes?
40
oh,
minutes.
Wow. Okay.
I think we're going to find more in the 15 to 20 minute range.
Okay.
That's
okay.
what our last one was.
Okay. So and I guess the thing we want to do is, there's no good story or bad story. It's just an ability to express, for folks to be able to record and express their thoughts. And if we think of this as the opportunity Yeah.
Guidance that's given in the facilitator's guide in terms of conducting the interviews is to not be afraid to ask an emotional question. It is an emotional question to ask someone who's passed away, whether they had an influence on your life. If that's something that person has shared with you, if that's one of the questions they've picked out, don't shy away from asking that kind of a question. I think it's important that you be sensitive to the fact that this is very important to the person who's being interviewed to share. We have to show a lot of respect for our subjects. They have to know that we're using this in a way that is appropriate. So that be sure you go through all of the release information and how it's going to be utilized in our National Library of Audio Interviews for Touchmark. That you may have an occasion in your community where they're going to share their story for the residents. And there may be several people that are going to sit in on a project like that, whether it's during Active Aging Week or for some special event that you're having in connection with your writing classes. But be sure that we advise people that we are recording them, that we are going to use this information for ourselves. They're not going to hear themselves on public radio. And I think it's important that they know that.
Right. So if the communities, the life enrichment directors have questions, how are we going to be conducting a?
We're going to do the call on the second Tuesday in July, and at that time you'll have a chance to watch this tape, and then we're going to take you through the guided process that was part of what we planned to do when we did the training, and let you ask questions and bring up concerns, and I think that's the easiest way to get.
Yeah. Okay.
Everybody's
And
information.
if you're really interested in purchasing one of these snowballs, I mean, if you feel as though you're going to have 15 or 20 residents that are going to be interested in doing this, I'd encourage you to purchase one. And those, I think we got them off Amazon, Amazon.com. You can actually call me or Marge. Actually, we can put together the link to be able to send that information out to folks. How would you suggest, and maybe you covered this in the training back in May, but how should the communities be generating interest in this to get residents that start thinking, hey, yeah, this is something I'd like to do?
We did talk about that, and I think the agreement among all of us was that for the initial interviews, you would select the people you felt were the most appropriate to interview, and that you yourself would be the interviewer or someone on your team, and that in this first phase of this, we probably would not be taking the information to the total resident population, asking for volunteers. I think you're going to need almost a show and tell piece to be able to get the interest. At some point, if a family member wants to be involved in the interview, if they want to interview their parent or spouse wants to interview, which is usually a little more challenging, that might work. But for the time being, this is not intended to be a program that pulls in those outside folks at this time.
So are we thinking maybe target 5 to 10 folks and be able to, that they would have thought through who might have some good stories or experiences to share? Okay.
And there isn't any reason to not bring those people together as a group and explain the project and what you're doing, and that you feel that they, just from your experience in interviewing them and knowing what they've done in your community and what they've talked about, would really be a good candidate to share some highlight from their life story for others to be able to hear. Yeah,
okay. Well, we want to thank you for your patience in watching this first little training video, and we're hopeful that as we do this training video that it's something that's useful, and it was useful to you to be able to see the real play and get kind of an experience of how that should work.
And certainly when you end the interview, you want to thank the participant. Thank you so much, Brian, for
Thank you, Marge.
helping us today by sharing that wonderful part of your life story with us.
Okay, thank you.